Hey everyone, Caleb with the Antique Book Collective, and today I'm getting to you guys with negotiating prices for books at sales. This, of course, is more leaning towards estate sales, but it definitely applies to Friends of the Library sales and other places like garage sales that you might be buying books. For me, I sell antique books. I buy antique books from just Friends of the Library sales, estate sales, and occasionally garage sales. I don't really go elsewhere. I don't go to bookstores, so these negotiating tactics have never been tried at a bookstore, but maybe you could try it there. I don't know. And it also doesn't just apply to antique books. I mean, if you're trying to buy other things, it might apply to those as well. There are some things that are more directed towards antique books, like weight is a big thing and getting rid of books is a big thing. So that's something that people might not want to do. So you might be able to be like, hey, I'll take them off your hands, because this is something that people will really be willing to have you take off their hands. Like antique books and couches. It's stuff that you don't, well, books in general and couches. It's stuff that you don't want to be carrying out as the estate sale person, as the person with the garage sale, as all those sorts of things, because they're big and they're heavy and it's like, I don't want to carry that. So if you're offering to pay them money for something that they were just going to throw away and have someone, or pay someone to take away and throw away, you might be cutting them a pretty good deal. And if you're paying them for it, it's like, wow, that's a no-brainer. However, there are some caveats, so I'm just going to dive right on into things, and I'm just going to start from the beginning on where I wanted to start. So first off is, so Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki, you know that guy. He has this quote where he says, money is made when you buy. And that's a pretty true thing, like if you actually start thinking about it, because there are times that you can make your money as you're selling, of course, but that's not exactly when you're making your money if you really think about it, because you're selling your stuff. Say you sell it for $50. But what really is important is your expenses, how much you paid for these things. And for me, with my antique book business, my average expense for books is about $8. I spend about $2 to buy these books in the very first place. So when I'm selling these books, when I'm selling them for at least $20 on like the low end, or usually I'm shooting for $40 or higher as like my more middle of the field, whatever that phrase is. When I'm shooting for that, though, I'm always going to be making money because I'm buying low, I'm keeping my expenses low, and because I'm able to do all those things, I'm able to make sure that my money is made as soon as I'm buying these books, because I know I'm going to be able to spin it around and get a good profit. I know that all the money I spend is going to come back multiple times over and make me some really, really good money, because I am making my money when I buy. So when you are buying your books, you want to be getting the best deals that you can get as well. So one good way to get that is obviously negotiating prices, which is what this entire video is about. So the average price, again, that I spend for books is $2, and that's actually on the high end compared to other people that I've talked to, other people that I've listened to, all these other people that I've studied as I've been doing my antique book business. I know a lot of people that are spending $1 for a book, which is half of mine. That's pretty good. And then I know some people spending 50 cents, 25 cents. I've heard people that are spending 5 cents to get books, and to think that I could be spending 5 cents and get books that I could be spending, that I could be selling for over $100, that's pretty stinking good. Of course, that there's different places where you can make those books, where you can get those books, where it doesn't really work for everyone. So for me, what I have heard, what I have seen, all that sort of stuff, is the places where you can get really, really good prices for books is out in the middle of nowhere, out in like more rural areas, that sort of thing. Also, I have found, I've actually studied this and looked it up and researched it a bit. So actually where I live in Oregon, and in the area I live, it actually is some of the most expensive areas for buying used anything, which I thought was really strange and interesting. And honestly, it's a little bit annoying, but it does help me because it makes sure that I don't just go and buy every single book out there. It makes sure that I buy just the ones that make me a good chunk of money. And yes, I could be making a better chunk of money if I was buying these books even cheaper, but let's think about it this way, guys. If I was spending 50 cents to get these books instead of $2, I'm making an extra $1.50 on these books. It really doesn't matter that much. I mean, an extra $1.50, it definitely does stack up. You sell 2,000 books in a year, and that really stacks up pretty quick. So, I mean, it is, of course, something that you might want to consider, but at the end of the day, I mean, it's not the end of the world. However, if I'm spending $30 to buy a book and I'm selling it for $50, then buying it really low really does matter, because if I can spend $2 instead of $30, I could really be making some really good money. Just something you guys want to think about when you're doing this, and it is, of course, something that really it's something that really depends on where you live. So I know of people that live in Tennessee, I know of people that live in different countries, all these different places where they are able to get different prices because of where they live. So you guys won't really know exactly how much you have to spend to get your books on average until you do this. And honestly, I wouldn't say you know a rough average until you buy like 100 books. And if you buy for $2 like me, that means you're going to have to spend $200 before you really know the average-ish of how many books you're going to have to buy and how much the average price is. So that sort of stuff. So just food for thought right there. Next thing, though, is I've already told you about the expenses, but what's the negotiating? I mean, I've been talking about all these things and it's rather fixed prices. What about negotiating? So the first thing that I love negotiating on, and I actually got a really good deal because I negotiated a bit this past weekend, is you can negotiate when you're buying sets of books. And, excuse me for a little bit. Sorry for the noise. So, sets of books are books that all look similar or are the same or are like volume 1, 2, 3, 4, that sort of thing. It's when all these books go together. And for people that are selling books in anything, like not just estate sales, not just friends of the library sales, but even at bookstores, they'd rather have you buy the entire set than just buying one book. So if you're buying just one book, they might charge you $20. However, if you say that you're going to buy all the books, they might be like, oh, well, normally I would charge this much. Like, so if it was $20 each, that would be $80 for these 4 books. They might be like, well, I'll just charge you $50 because, I mean, you're taking all of them off my hands because for book resellers or booksellers in general, like me, it's a lot harder to sell just a couple books than it is the entire set. When people see a whole set, they see something that they don't have to put more work into to find new buyers for these books. And for me, that has been a good moneymaker for me because I am able to get these full sets or I parse out sets, which is something for an entirely different video. But sets of books, you can get really good deals. And all you have to be talking to the estate sale people and other people is like, hey, I'm taking this entire set off your hands. I'm not leaving any of these books for you to try to sell on your own. Can you cut me a cool little deal on these books? Or you might even look at these books beforehand and be like, man, I can't make money with this particular price, but I could if I bought it for this price. So for me, I have bought encyclopedia sets and the estate sale might be like, hey, yeah, we're charging $10 per book. But I'm like, hey, if I take this entire set of 60 encyclopedias, I don't want to spend $600. I'll pay $60. I'll pay that much, but I won't pay anything more. And I've had people be like, oh, if you're taking all the encyclopedias, yeah, by all means, you can pay $60. I actually went to one estate sale over in Bend area, which is also in Oregon, Central Oregon, and I saw an awesome set of Charles Dickens books from the late 1800s, and I was like, oh, hey, yeah, I am really interested in these books. It looks like you have almost a complete set. It looks like you're missing one book, but yeah, I'd really like to take this. And they were like, really? You take the whole set? I'm like, yeah. So I think you were saying you were asking like $5 per book, so I was thinking I could spend, and they're like, let me just stop you there. I'll sell the entire set of books to you for $10. And this entire set was about 50 books, and I have been selling these books just one at a time. Sometimes I sell a couple more to one person, but I've been parsing out the set for about $40 per book. So this particular set, I have actually made probably $500 or more just from a $10 expense. So buying sets of books, guys, you can really negotiate the prices because people like selling sets of books, like for some reason. So I think that's something you could probably do at a bookstore as well, but I haven't done that, as I said earlier, but I have done it at Friends of the Library sales, and I have done it at estate sales, and I have done very, very well. The blue books that I brought up just a little bit ago to show you guys, I bought probably 30 of them, and I would have had to pay $6 for each book because they were hardcover, because they were asking for a lot of money at this estate sale. But they told me just $25. So, I mean, that was an incredibly good deal. It was about less than $1 a piece. So I was extremely happy with that. And that sort of segues into the next sort of thing that I want to talk to you guys about. So when you go to an estate sale, if you show up on the first day, it's a great day to buy the stuff that you're really excited about for this estate sale. So let's say you found it on estatesales.com or estatesales.net, which are things that actually estatesales.org, not .com, sorry. If you go on those, like I recommend and I talk about in other videos, again, you can check those out in my channel. But if you go on those, you can see the pictures of these estate sales before they go live, before the estate sale opens, before people are buying these things. So you could show up on the first day and you could buy a couple books that you were really excited about. But there might be some books that you were like on the fence about and you're like, I don't know if I want to buy these. I mean, I know I could sell them for this much money, but it's just not worth it at this price. And that's something that's really cool about estate sales is you can go the first day, you can grab those books you're really excited about. I know I grabbed several that I was personally really excited about. And then the next day or the last day of the sale, it really depends, you can show back up. And this works for Friends of the Library sales as well. You can show up at the end. Don't show up at the end because that's just a bit of a jerk move. Depending, sometimes you might be able to talk to people and be like, hey, yeah, if you don't have anyone buying these books and you're closing, I'll show up and help you close, and I'll take all these books off your hands for this much. So it's definitely something you want to play by ear and you want to talk to people about. But when you are doing these sales, and if you want to get a good deal, show up at the last day, near the end, when the people running the sale are getting bored, they're getting tired, when they're seeing that these books are not going to sell, or anything else in that for that matter, it's not just books, but show up at the end when they think that they're not going to be able to sell anything and be like, hey, I see that these are all still here. Remember me from yesterday? I was the nice guy that helped you on this and this and this. That's the other thing. Be sure to be nice. They'll cut you a deal if you're nice. That's just a general thing. Just don't be a dirtbag. But if you show up at the last day and you have all the books, you can be like, hey, so I'm here. I know that you guys are just going to throw these books away, or you're going to have to store them, or you're going to have to do this, or you're going to have to carry them out on your own. A lot of these times, the people that are doing these sales, they don't want to carry around 500 pounds of books or so. You'd be like, I'll take all of them off your hands right now for X amount of money. So that X amount of money depends on how much you are willing to spend for the books. I don't recommend spending too much for these books. There are a lot of things that you want to consider. For me, when I'm doing these rough ideas, sometimes I literally pull out a pen and paper or my phone calculator, and I'm like, all right, so there's 7 books I want here. There's 100 books total. So because I only want 7, I usually spend about $2 per book. So I'm going to say that I'm going to pay them like $20 because 7 times 2 is 14. And then there are the other 93 books that I'm not too thrilled about, but I might end up selling. It really depends. But I'll be like, yeah, I'll pay you $20 for those 100 books. Because for me, I know that still allows me to profit because I have those 7 books I was sort of looking at but wasn't totally sold on. And then the other 93 books, I could throw them away myself. I could sell them to someone else. I could donate them. Honestly, guys, donating the books is actually a really cool thing that you can do. If you donate them to the right libraries, for me, I actually have a library locally where they accept the books that you donate. And they're like, oh yeah, just write what you think it's worth. And obviously don't lie on that. But when you're telling them what you think those things are worth, you can say that it's roughly the fair market value or the average used book value. And for me, I find that the average used book is about $10 a piece. Even if I don't want to sell it, if I'm only donating it, it's still worth about $10 a piece. So I can donate $1,000 worth of books. That is just 100 books, and I only paid like $5 for. But like, if you actually think about it, you can actually be doing your donations for that sort of thing. I'm not your tax advisor. That's not tax advice. That's just what I have thought about and haven't done personally, but it's definitely something that I've been like, oh man, this is a good way that I could get more tax write-offs. Again, I'm not your tax advisor. Don't do this if you haven't talked to them. Make sure to run that by them first. It could be an old rule. I don't know. Really depends. But at the end of the day, libraries, they are nonprofits, a lot of them. So that's just something that you guys might want to pay attention to. So that's a way that you can get rid of the bum inventory that you pick up when you're buying tons of books at the end of a sale. So I hope those tips helped you though, guys, with the buying the sets and the showing up at the last minute. There are a lot of other things that you can do to negotiate your prices, but those are the 2 really good ones that I have actually made a good amount of money on, and I hope that really helps you guys. I hope that you can go out there and buy some antique books from estate sales and Friends of the Library sales, and I hope you can get some really good deals using your new negotiating tactics. They don't always work. I find that they only work like 70% of the time, especially when I show up earlier. They don't work more. Like if you show up on the first day, they won't negotiate as well, but who knows? It can't hurt to just ask. And something that I've actually heard several times before is don't give them an offer that's so low that you'd feel bad for getting the books for that price. Like for me, the $20 for 100 books, I wouldn't personally feel bad because I know that I probably won't be able to sell the other 93 books. So there's a cost to that. Plus I have to drive there. Plus I have to do all these things. So I wouldn't feel bad doing that. And if you don't feel bad making that offer, odds are those people won't feel bad accepting the offer. Because at the end of the day, this is capitalism, and you want to make someone feel good for every transaction. You want to have it be a fair trade. You want people to be happy. That way they want to do it again and again. And if you treat people well, if you give them good deals, if you pay a fair price, they'll watch out for you at the next estate sale, and they'll be like, hey, that's the guy that took all the books at the end. Maybe we'll tell him that he can get a deal on all the books right now on the first day. And it's something that you can just build rapport with local people. Or for me, I actually do estate sales and friends of library sales, like cities and many miles away, counties away. I go to these all these different cities and I buy these things and I get pretty good prices because the people have gotten to the point where sometimes they recognize me and they're like, hey, aren't you the guy from over there? I'm like, yeah. They're like, you drove all the way over here again? I'm like, yep, all 5 hours of it, all 10 hours of it. I drive that far because I know the sale's good and the people are nice. So when those two things mesh, you can get some really good deals. So once again, I hope that really helps you guys. I hope that you can negotiate, get some good prices on your books. And please be sure to check out one of the videos over here and to subscribe. I'll hope to see you in the next video. So see you then.